So finally, we're talking about Welcome to Raccoon City in this video. Yeah, I've gathered some notes. I basically wrote down some of the scenes that I remember the most on my phone. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to read it out, and as we go, I'll I'll add some bits and bobs, and this is just my honest review on the new RE movie. I'll agree on the fact that I'm probably partially guilty for watching in 4DX. So the experience, which was my first time, the experience made it a little bit more interesting and more pleasing to watch. So yeah, let's start from the beginning. Claire gets a ride into Raccoon with this man who's driving a truck, and she doesn't really seem enthusiastic, which is something that I always thought Claire would be, because she doesn't really live in Raccoon, and she's doing, she's in college at the time in the series. I always thought maybe just going to Raccoon was really just not really her thing. She knows Chris's hot spots, like the diner and the RPD. She hasn't really lived. I'm pretty sure Chris and Claire come from New York or something like that. Yeah, if I do get something wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not super hardcore in the lore. I'm a huge fan. I've been a long-term fan of the franchise, but apart from curious bits that I get through, because I'm a curious person, I don't know the lore that's been translated and things like that, which I wish I did, but yeah, don't really have time for that. She doesn't live in Raccoon, and she actually escaped from the city because of her bad experiences in the orphanage, who both her and Chris had, but she had it more than him. She had it tougher than him when she was a kid. Essentially, they were in the orphanage when they were kids. It's more of a realistic perspective on how Chris and Claire are, I think. I don't really believe that in real life, if you had two kids, the older brother will be able to grow his little young sister alone. I don't really believe that. I think that's a bit, I guess, romanticized in fiction. For where would they get money from if a close relative wouldn't be there? That's always been my thought. I always wondered, how did they get by? Did Chris start working when he was really young? Because he was in the army very young, as far as I remember. In the orphanage, which is run by William Birkin in the movie, it shows that he is experimenting on kids, and there's a whole starring sequence which I did like. I enjoyed a bit of flashback of Claire and Chris's kids. The ride to Raccoon doesn't seem easy in the movie for Claire, because the guy who's driving, he hits this zombie woman or kid, don't remember now. He panics, they go out, and this is where the 4DX started for us, because if you've been into 4DX, you know what I mean, but if you don't, I'll explain it to you. Because when Claire steps out of the truck, basically we felt this breeze and the rain, and a little bit of water being shot to our faces, just tiny bits, nothing weird. That was one of the things that were like, oh, okay, cool, time to hit it off. And there was this breeze, and to make you feel like you're stepping out of the truck with Claire, and it felt really realistic in a way. It felt like we were inside the cinema, but at the same time we were outside. Eventually they get back in the truck because the girl turns into a zombie and she walks off like she's fine. And the scenario changes eventually, and we're with someone who wakes up late for work. And as soon as I saw that shot, I was like, alright, that's Leon. I knew that was him. And it's one of those things that, if you don't know what happens to Leon in the original, story, you can't really guess who it is. If you have a small knowledge of the origin stories of the characters, you understand right off the bat who is in the shot without any explanation. You don't need any names. If you know the RE characters, you know that Leon was late for work. Leon is late for his first day on the job. He gets up and he joins Stars in the diner, which is something that I quite enjoyed. You know, that whole diner scene where Jill and Wesker were flirting with each other. The diner scene was something that probably was like a bit of relief. If there's something that I always imagine is how would the Stars, team, or any character together, like how would Jill, Chris, and Leon and Claire wind down when they're not at work. The thing that I probably most enjoyed about the diner scene was the fact that Leon and Jill get to meet. Having that little moment where Jill is actually supportive of the rookie at the start of the movie was really fantastic. So anyways, Claire locks Chris's house and she gets in, and she just walking around, kind of like just mumbling around. She actually mentions that Chris has a bit of a crush on Jill, and yeah, so that was actually like a heartwarming little nod, because Jill and Chris have always been in a platonic kind of love. Like, I imagine they're like a married couple on the job, a person that you only like, that you see mostly on your job, and it's that person you can always count on. Another character from the games that was in, which was different but interesting take on, I guess, was Ben Bertolucci. He was in the movie, and his character is the one that basically sent Claire this video of him saying about this conspiracy theory about Umbrella, and it was kind of like interesting how they get that nod of Claire being, around and chatting to people online, stumbling about Ben, and Claire knows what was up when she was a kid, but she never could have proved it, and Ben is there to just lean a hand and say, yeah, I know, and I believe you, and all these things. And I think it's fair, because Chris didn't seem to believe much in what Claire had been through, and that was kind of shitty, I guess. Which kind of led me to believe how they wanted to portray William Birkin in a very manipulative way, because Chris was blinded by him when he was a kid, which is very easy to do to a kid. Claire eventually leaves and Chris goes to work, and Leon, despite being the rookie of the situation, is the first one who addresses if the woman in the diner is feeling okay. If you didn't look at those details in some of the Leon scenes, you would have probably just thought, oh, he's just a comic relief. But if you look closer, he was the first one to kind of, feel like something was up with her and it wasn't right. So Bravo team doesn't answer anymore. The Alpha team gets sent to retrieve them. And that made me believe that if they really wanted to do things right, maybe in like years from now, they can try and attempt a RE0 prequel. It would be nice to see. So this is where the true RE elements start coming in. We see Alpha team going to the forest. The little bit where Jill shoots that crow, and it was kind of funny the way they were like, just take the gun away from Jill, which was a bit too much. The Jill that they tried to portray was super aggressive, which is not bad or good. I don't know where to actually put that in. I think I just haven't really processed that in a way. I felt just a little bit of funny bits. I honestly had no issues with it. Making Joel and Leon a bit of comic relief felt like every now and then you had to remember yourself that it was inspired by 90s kind of B movies, and that's what RE is. It has a lot of silly bits in it. So yeah, they get into the mansion, and this is where everything kind of comes together. And if you're a big fan of the series, you try to scan every bit of a set piece that you can see around, and yeah, it to see something like that, to see the RPD and the mansion on the screen, it made me feel proud. It made me feel like, wow, this is something that I've always dreamed to see. It's like seeing RE in double the screen, it's a little bit of a geeked moment for me. After that, I think Iron just Irons just bails on Leon and he tries to escape the city, which led me to believe he had probably a bigger part in it, maybe in the rough first script, but maybe in this version of the movie he was just very much of a coward basically, and all he is just talk, when he's like, oh fuck you Leon and blah 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 and all. In the movie it's like, you're all talk because the first chance you get you're trying to escape, and he actually can't, and he just goes back to the parking lot, and for whatever reason he ends up with Claire and Leon. Bit odd, with some characters like Wesker and Irons that are placed with the main heroes, you always felt kind of on edge that they would do something wrong. I still thought they could have done better with Irons, to be honest. Richard, on the other hand, kind of felt misplaced. I don't know. It felt a bit like he was just there to get killed, and yeah, I don't know if I enjoyed that. I mean, if they had Barry, then Barry had to die. And the director said that he has plans for Barry to come later on. So if they have this idea of Barry in the future, there's no way they can kill him off. So they placed Richard in. And yeah, Richard was fine. I think all the actors did a fantastic job, But yeah, I just felt like he was there to show that Chris is actually a better marksman than he is. Yeah, I don't know. So Chris and Richard split up from Jill and Wesker. They go together, and that's when Wesker starts to be a bit shady. While this is all happening, there's the emergency state going into town, and that's why Irons tries to flee. And Leon closes the gates of the station, and there's these zombies at the gate, and they seem that they're turning. And I think that was an okay touch to it. That was fine, because how, if you remember correctly, the Itchy Tasty documentary remake, it feels like, I guess you could call it just state between being a zombie and not being a zombie, where you still kind of the will, to live. So these zombies at the gate were like, let us in, but you could clearly see that as soon as they would get in, if Leon let them, they would probably end up turning. So I think that was a nice touch. I will add though, that scene where the zombie walks in and he's on fire, maybe the music was a bit too much, but I get the silliness out of it. At the same time, I felt like that was a bit of a necessary scene. I don't know, it just felt like misplaced. It was a very silly scene. When the emergency state goes dark, William Birkin gets a call, and Sherry wakes up from a nightmare. And this is something that my boyfriend noticed. When Sherry wakes up, she talks about this monster in her nightmare, and if you think about it, the description she gives is very similar to a hunter from the games. Green claws and all that she says. Now I don't remember, but that's something that Roland told me. William gets a call, and he just says to Annette and Sherry to get dressed and go. This is when Claire is going to the RPD, she ends up in this weird awkward challenge stare with William, because William was driving really fast and he's about to run her over with her bike. And so Claire just stops, recognizes him, and that was a staring contest they had. And then she just drives away. Or he drives away, I think. I'm not sure. I've only watched the movie once, so bear with me. So so far the movie started, it kicked off. And this is where actually the movie hits, that breaking point where it starts and you can assume that everything that will be happening is big and will lead to the final part. So we're kind of in the middle of the movie now. I was really enjoying the 4DX at that point. So Claire was portrayed like the RE2 remake counterpart. So if you not play the RE2 remake, I would say that's not the Claire that you remember. I kind of figured, because seeing Kaya Scodelario's other roles, it kind of fits for her to be that, tomboy, rough, badass woman. Claire explains to Leon in the movie that she knows how to kick ass because of her brother teaching her how to, and she saved Leon's ass during the scene in the cell. When they were talking to Ben, Leon's rookie spirit is right there when he's trying to unlock and free Ben from his cell. So I thought that was a really nice touch because Leon is still a rookie. He's 21. He wants to do the right thing. He wants to help. Ben's cellmate turns into a zombie and bites him and kills him eventually. And this is where Leon kind of kick-assery comes in a bit. He starts to shaken up and he blows the zombie head off. Yeah, at that point they meet with Irons as well. Irons, by that point it doesn't seem like Irons really is involved. It just seems like a dickhead, really. Wesker and Jill were just rocking around the Moonlight Sonata, no big deal. That felt a bit meh because I wish it was Jill who were playing the piano, but it's fine, you adapt. Wesker gets this message, and I'm sure it's how you play Moonlight Sonata as well. He knows about this passageway who leads to the lab, and the lab leads to the train. The thing about it is, I'm guessing in that message, he either had the Moonlight Sonata, keys, or they just explained to him that was a way to unlock the passage, and he just knew Moonlight Sonata from, heart. So yeah, Wesker's unlocks the door after Brad gets attacked and he comes through the freaking window, and that's Brad gone. He tells Jill about this. He has this way to go out and to save himself and to save her with him. But the thing that he misses is that Jill actually wants to stay behind, and she's not ready to just bail on Chris and Richard, who she thinks is still alive, but it's not. Jill just leaves him and he just goes. I feel like that was the whole purpose of Wesker wanting to get with Jill. Maybe he wanted to save her because he liked her and all, but that's the thing, he didn't know her enough to understand that she would not leave the rest of the team. Anyways, Richard, who's dead, almost gets Chris killed as well, and there's this big scene where Chris is in trouble dealing with zombies, and Richard is literally just being a meal for the zombies. It was cool because while Chris was being pushed around and trying to shoot zombies off, and when he would shoot a zombie head off, water would just split. Like you shoot a zombie in the head, you blow their heads off, and the blood would come through, but it was just water. Well, that's what I think it is. But anyways, it was really cool. You could feel like zombie hands in the chair while everything was happening in the scene. There's this moment that I think it's a bit of a nod on the on the remake end, if you save Chris, where you basically have Chris and Jill hugging, and there's that moment of relief knowing he's alive. I enjoyed that side of Jill a lot. The way, Jill is not only like that, Jill is also soft and caring, and she, bailing Wesker for her teammates is Jill. I think Chris and Jill were fantastic. Anyways, Irons gets killed in a very forgetful way. When the liquor pops up, they find Lisa in the orphanage. Claire recognizes her from when she was a kid, because Lisa was one of the kids that they were experimenting on. Leads them to the elevator, and her portrayal was sweet, I guess. It was a nice touch, but I did expect a bit more from Lisa Trevor herself and some of her story as well. Yeah, so Claire finds this film where, it's inspired by the Ashfords. Yeah, it shows that they're experimenting on kids. She has this really raw moment where she kind of puts together that they were experimenting and they were probably experimenting on her. Basically, all she believed in is true. So I think that's an important scene for Claire. So after going to the lab, every main hero meets up. The Wesker is already there, and he's having a fight off with William Birkin and his family. I will say this, probably the character who let me down the most was probably the portrayal of Annette Birkin. I think she was really underused. She was portrayed as a lovely mother, but that's all she was. Yeah, I don't know, just didn't like her portrayal that much. I wish they'd done something else with her once William turns. Wesker thinks he's doing everybody a favor, but he's only helping the scientist turn into a beast. Chris always believed in Birkin being good and Claire being just paranoid instead, and this is where the tipping point is. Chris starts to see the true colors of William Birkin. He's the one who fights him as well, so I think he even gets like squished by his hand or something, like he gets grabbed. After saving Sherry though from the mess, they all go to, apart from Wesker, they all go to the train. The mansion blows up, and basically Chris unloads his whole clip into shooting the eyes of William Birkin, last stage of him. And I thought that was really nice, like the fact that he was actually shooting at eyes, like he would do in the game. But the thing is, that wasn't really enough, so there comes Leon with a rocket launcher, and he says he found it in first class, and shoots the rocket launcher into William's face. And that's the point where you're like, Leon had probably the best arc throughout the movie, really, because he's from a rookie who's away from work, who doesn't know what's going on, to being, the one that shoots the beast in the face. I thought that was like, yes, that's the Leon I know, and this is the Leon I love. The movie was practically over then, but unlike others who were just going, just walking off, we were just waiting for the credits to end. Small short credits to end, and yeah, we sat there, and here comes freaking Ada Wong out of nowhere in the post-credits scene. Wesker, who's remained in the lab, probably done something to himself, or someone has done something to himself. Who knows? Maybe Ada. He gets up like the zombie from the intro from Remake. When you boot up Remake on your console or PC, you see that scene where the zombie gets up and then he gets shot and goes back down. And I thought that was a little nod to how Wesker looked on that bed in the lab. Yeah, so Wesker gets up, and they probably unleash global saturation very soon. Yeah, so basically that was all the notes I wrote down. Things that I probably would have liked being added would be the sewers before coming to the lab, at least for Leon and Claire. I just think it would have been a cool chance to add some extra monsters, but I know they didn't really have a big budget for the movie, so I will admit the movie is a bit rushed, but overall I think I enjoyed the movie for what it was. Think about the work and efforts that everybody has put in working on it, especially the actors. They researched the characters. And people, like Robbie, who are gaming fans, they knew the franchise, and it was same for Alvin, who played Leon. It was a dream come true for these guys to play those characters, and I think we owe it to them to at least give them some credit. The important thing is that they still had that 90s feelings, and I did, especially with the music in the movie. I never seen a Ari movie in cinemas either, because I used to live in a small town and they wouldn't really put big budget movies on, unfortunately. I think this was, despite its problems, looking past the problems, this is what I wanted to see. I think it's a decent movie, and I don't think it's getting the love that it deserves. I think people have been a bit too harsh with it. If you enjoyed it, good. You watched the movie that you enjoyed. If you didn't, I feel sorry for you. What pushed me to like it even more is the fact that people were just being harsh towards the actors as well. And so I went in the cinema with an open heart, an open mind. We're living in a pandemic, and loads of people don't seem to understand that, and there's no means and the efforts that this has done and shot through a pandemic as well. I think people just tend to forget that, and it's really bad. I remember following Kaya on Instagram. Well, I always did, because I'm a fan of hers for movies. And I remember when she was shooting the movie, she was away from her family. So things like that people don't know, I think made me appreciate the movie a little more. They put effort into this, and that's all I care about. If you can't go to the cinema because you can go out in public or something right now, as soon as the movie gets on streaming platforms, I'd say watch it. It's fun. I think it's gone over their 25 million budget goal. I think it's around 30 million now that it's got worldwide, and yeah, I'm pretty stoked. We'll see if a sequel gets a pass, and hopefully they'll do better and bigger. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to me today, and hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you very soon.